The future transportation will be safer, cleaner and more efficient. And we in the Volvo Group, we're on our way. On November 5th, the executive management invited investors and analysts to a virtual Capital Markets Day to outline the Volvo Group strategic direction. And the main focus at the event was about the transformation journey into new and sustainable technologies. But that journey cannot be made without you, our supply chain partners from all around the world. And it is now important that we now translate the ambitions for what it means for you being part into our supply chain. I hereby welcome you to the very first Supply Chain Webcast, where we will communicate for you on a quarterly basis the strategic ambitions for Volvo Group and to have you on board on this journey. Today we will listen to our President and CEO Martin Lundstedt and our CPO Andrea Fuder. And they will give us the highlights from the 2030 strategy and the relevance for our supply chain. In parallel, the industry is facing significant technology shifts. Current business models, they are being challenged and new ones are being introduced in a pace we could never imagine. And we cannot meet the future without understanding the megatrends. What does megacities, increased e-commerce, new technologies, how do they impact our industry? Well, one thing that we know for sure, they are all moving targets, and we in the Volvo Group, we need to stay sharp together with you in our supply chain. Therefore, today we will show you the clear link between the Volvo Group's 2030 strategy and the commitments that we expect for you to have in our supply chain. A warm welcome. So, how will the world look like in 2030? Let's have a look.
An increasing global population, booming e-commerce, climate change and congested megacities, tech giants taking control of end-to-end logistics flows, startups scrambling to disrupt the inefficient transport industry, economic power shifting to the east. And this is yesterday's news. Imagine what the world will look like 10 years from now. In 2030, we're 8.6 billion people sharing the planet. 4 out of 5 economic superpowers are found in Asia. 70% of us live in cities, and almost all of us are connected. The effects of climate change have become too real to ignore. Sustainability has become a prerequisite for doing business. We shop online and prefer using services rather than owning products. Power has shifted from producers to consumers, and expectations on user experience are extremely high. Companies use data to provide seamless and individualized services and products. It's all about the customer interface. In 2030, the winner takes it all.
Hello Martin and Andrea, and welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Martin, today we will talk about the Volvo Group's 2030 strategy. Before we dig into it, could we reflect just a little bit on the challenging times that we still are in, dictated by the pandemic?
Yeah, of course, 2020 has been a very difficult and challenging year. But I think we have been handling it in a consistent way. We have been working around our 5 C's when it comes to the priorities. Of course, starting with our colleagues, business partners, and the number one priority in all different situations, that is really health and safety. And we need to continue to do so. We are still in the midst of this pandemic. Number 2, of course, customers, to keep uptime support running, both when it comes to the services, but also when it comes to deliveries of new equipment. Then, of course, cost and cash flow. Cost in order to really have the right flexibility depending on what situation we are into, and cash flow to continue to maneuver from a position of strength. And not at least to be able to honor the different type of obligations we have as a group also, not at least with all our partners out here. And finally, communication. In difficult times, it is very important to be honest, transparent, communicate frequently. And this is what we do today.
Thank you, Martin. And Andrea, how would you say that our supply chain partners have been supporting us so far?
Yeah, well, of course, on top what Martin said, of course, also the 5 C's they're super important. But what really sticks out is flexibility. We really had to have this year in our whole production system, including our supply chain. Because when you think about, we had really come to a full stop and then a very quick acceleration. And of course, now we know we still have to be careful, not knowing what perhaps this pandemic can still bring to us. But I have really to say, we did this in such a fantastic way, such a good collaboration, that I really have to say I'm very proud how we do this together with our production colleagues, but also together with our supply chain partners. And I would really like to take the opportunity to thank all of you for your great efforts. I really feel that we are in this journey together, and please also forward our gratitude to your teams.
Thank you so much. Now, coming back to the movie that we just saw, The World in 2030. Of course, the world is changing, industry is changing, but also Volvo Group also needs to change. And Martin, could you give us a little bit the highlights from the Volvo Group's 2030 strategy?
And first and foremost, you need to take, so to speak, the starting point from the fact that transportation and infrastructure will continue to develop. We know that we need more transportation. There are a lot of mega trends supporting that. But that must be done in a considerably more sustainable way. And that is the equation that we need to solve. We know that transportation is driving prosperity, driving economic growth, but also to find the balance that we can cope also within the planetary boundaries. And that is really what the strategy is all about, that we are building it upon this way through new technologies such as electrification, through autonomous type of solutions, connectivity, digitalization, but also that we continue to develop well-known and very important technologies, for example, such as the internal combustion engine, and we will come back to that later here.
And like we are now really committed to our sustainable journey. And we are also fully committed to the Paris Agreement, for example, and also have now applied for the science-based targets. We can only be successful on this journey when we really take our whole supply chain with us. So it's now more than ever important that we collaborate, and we are really depending that everybody in the supply chain takes this challenge. And it's not only about our first-tier suppliers, we also need to cascade this down in the whole supply chain.
The full supply chain, exactly. Thank you. And Martin, the Volvo Group strategy, how would you make it more tangible? What are the actual ambitions here?
First and foremost, I mean, if you look at, we should not go through our pyramid in detail, but we have been working with this pyramid for quite some time now, starting with our vision of driving prosperity through transport and infrastructure solutions. But we have also said through then collaboration in different layers and how we are doing this. But we wanted to do it even more tangible and take it to the next level. And as Andrea said, first and foremost, be very clear about not only fulfilling the promises of the Paris Agreement and beyond, including also the Green Deal, if you take the European standards, but also leading that development in our industry. That is very important to us. But in order to do so, you need also to make it tangible internally and externally. And if we start with the external part, give a number of proof points that we want to achieve, such as, committing to the science-based targets, where we are committing to deliver a number of achievements over a specific timeline. But also other type of reporting measures, like the task force for climate-related financial disclosures. That is important to us also, so that everyone can follow what are we doing, including also green financing, for example. But in order to be tangible, what is our role? We are talking about 3 very clear commitments when it comes to the direction moving forward, because we are talking about 2050 to be fossil free, and there we need to make a lot of progress now. And those 3 commitments are 100% safe, 100% fossil free, and 100% more productive. And they are all interconnected.
Those are really bold ambitions. And let's now, before we go and dig into them one by one, let's look at Volvo Group's 2030 ambitions.
We could have made yet another corporate video with futuristic-looking products and animated people in a super cool megacity. Then we realized we don't know exactly what the future will look like. But we do know what role we intend to play. How we'll make a difference for our customers and for society. In 2030, everything we do is centered on our customers. We focus on selected industry verticals and deliver tailor-made, end-to-end solutions, as well as easy-to-integrate products and services. We'll achieve great things in the coming 10 years. And looking even further ahead, our ambition is clear. We want to offer solutions that are 100% safe, 100% fossil-free, and 100% more productive than today, because that will allow us to meet a growing need for transport while staying within the boundaries of what our planet can sustain. Nobody knows exactly what the future will look like, but we're eager to make it a great one.
Martin, let's start out with a 100% safe. What does that mean?
First and foremost, I think that the majority of the world's population, if you ask them about safety and the relation to a specific brand, you will get Volvo as an answer. And we are very proud of that. That is truly in our DNA. And that's the reason why we believe that that is a starting point for a truly sustainable society and transport system. And what does that mean then? Of course, for our users, customers, but also the surrounding areas, pedestrians and other humans that are interacting in traffic situations must be safe when it comes to products, services, in all different type of conditions, both on-road, off-road, at sea, etc. But it also means safety when it comes to working conditions in our value chains, that we are providing a good and safe environment, 100% safe.
And Andrea, how should our suppliers support here?
Well, I think it's very clear when we want to be 100% safe, then everything going on our products or services we buy must also be 100% safe. And when you talk about components, I think there it starts, for example, with the right quality and over a life cycle. So here we cannot make any compromises. So I think, Olivia, this is easy to answer. What the requests we put on ourselves must also be followed up by the whole supply chain.
So what about then our second ambition, 100% fossil free? What is Volvo Group doing to achieve that?
First and foremost, we, in order to lead the way, we need to do it now as a starting point, step by step. And what we are doing is, of course, to paint out the picture. How shall we achieve that up to 2050? And what we are doing, and you can see that a little bit on this slide here, is that we will have a mix of different type of technologies. Of course, electrification and fuel cell-based electrification will continue to increase, but at the same time, also the internal combustion engine will have its part of the mix. The important part of this slide, we need to start now, step by step, and we need to be ready already by 2040, because in order to be 100% fossil-free by 2050 at the latest, globally, it means since we are together with our supply partners also doing a very good job when it comes to life cycle, we need to ship that already from 2040. So this is the roadmap and the target.
And Andrea, how do you think that we're going to achieve it?
Of course, it's not enough to just concentrate on what comes out of the pipe of our products. Also, our products itself should have a CO2 neutral footprint. And we should also not forget that we are also a consumer and producer of CO2. So we also have to think about our plants, our offices, how we create here CO2 neutrality and really reduce by, for example, burning fossil, what we are doing. So here we have to see it as one system where, of course, our supply chain partners take a big responsibility.
And if we stay a little bit on this topic, how is then our supply chain partners supposed to support here?
Of course, we will now start to ask the question, okay guys, we are preparing ourselves. What are you doing? What are you really doing to be a CO2 neutral company in the future? And of course, CO2 neutrality starts with using fossil to be 100% fossil free. So this is a big question, but we also have to consider other things, like, for example, pollution of soil, of water. So also this climate neutrality is in a bigger sense very important.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Martin, the last ambition, being 100% productive. Can you explain this ambition?
No, I think first and foremost that is about utilizing resources in an optimal way, because productivity is, I mean, from a theoretical standpoint, is output divided by input. And the more output you can get from less input, the more productive you are. And that is very good, because then you're utilizing less of the planet's resources, but still being able to achieve good prosperity for the population on the planet. And what do we mean by that? Of course, in our business models, when we are working with our customers, it's about, for example, minimizing waiting times in traffic situation, optimizing routes, to avoid that a lot of the transport equipment is just half utilized, etc. And one of the internal targets we have set here is to have the most sustainable transport system internally. We are a big transport buyer ourselves,
yes.
Both inbound and outbound, and to showcase what we can achieve by utilizing these type of solutions. So very exciting times.
And just following this up, Martin, like you said, we are a big transport buyer. So also here we will raise the question together with our partners in the logistic. How can this be achieved, that we are here really example by optimizing our inbound, outbound flow already 2025
exactly.
by 100%. So here we want to guide really the system.
And what is interesting, I mean, we have been working together with the suppliers on this, my favorite project, one information chain. Because that is exactly to the point, Olivia, also what we talk about transparency. Today we are transparent, communicating what we want to achieve. But the project that we call one information chain is how we interconnect with our suppliers when it comes to transportation, what do we want to achieve together, etc. So utilizing digitalization, optimizing transport, driving sustainability, perfect example.
So what I hear when I listen to you, that those are really bold ambitions and a lot of work and a lot of commitments, and this is all now gathered in Volvo Group's new sustainability strategy. So Martin, could you a little bit explain for us, hasn't sustainability always been high on our agenda? What is the actual difference now?
No, it has been high on our agenda, but I think we are even more crisp, clear with what we want to achieve, and how this is integrated in our business models in order to be leading, both from, so to speak, a societal perspective, but also from a commercial perspective. We are firm believers that in order to have a profitable business, you need to be sustainable, but also the other way around. And therefore, more clear targets, more integrated value chains and business models, how to utilize the new opportunities with technologies to achieve this, but also how to utilize the partnerships that we have together with all of you, but also with our customers to really drive this. So it is important, and we have defined that also in our sustainability ambitions in different forms, about resources, about climate, and about people. So there I think we are even more clear now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So Andrea, let's start out with climate. How should the supply chain contribute here?
I think, of course, we were already a lot in this when we talked about our 100% fossil free, because this is where it starts. Really take the climate change for real and try to reduce here the impact. So again, it is a lot about CO2, neutral CO2 footprint. It is about not impacting the resources like water, like soil, no landfill, for example. So it is the whole system. But I would like to summarize it. Everybody in our supply chain should really think about how can I minimize negative impact on the climate.
Both from an automotive and a non-automotive perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, how should the suppliers listening today, how would that mean in concrete actions? Because now they need to prepare, like you say, their action plan, they will be challenged. So what answers should they be prepared to give to you?
This is a good question, but not I want to answer this. These are exactly answers we would like to get from you, beginning from 2021. So in our meetings, we will ask, okay, what are the activities each and every supply partner is taking? And also, what we should not forget, it is about the supply chain. So how can we together cascade these requests down? So I'm really looking forward to the answers and the inspirations, and I think we will have here very good discussions.
So it's good that we plant this base. Martin, you also said resources. You say that the planet's resources, they aren't infinite. What does that mean from a Volvo Group perspective? What role do we play here?
First and foremost, the fantastic opportunities that circularity is bringing. I mean, a circular economy is positive because, I mean, you can reuse, I mean, remanufacturing. It is about second life. It is about, I mean, different forms of actually utilizing the resources in a better way. So here we are working with a lot of different business models. We would love to have the inputs about, I mean, what is the life length, how can we bring better materials from the start that can be recycled, reused, remanufactured. And I mean, remanufacturing as one example that I love has been in our DNA for a long time, but it will be even more modern now. So I think circularity is one very important example. Andrea has been into it. For example, we are measuring now the landfill-free operations that we have. We are making great progress. Very important area where we need the input also about new ideas and innovations from our partners.
And of course, Martin, the ideas we have really to get from the beginning, when we really design together, engineer together a product, how can we really design it from the beginning for remanufacturing, for recycling? So also here together with our colleagues from GTT, we will sit together and ask here for input from our supply chain partners.
And I remember that also when we had the Purchasing Innovation Summit. I mean, we talked about that also. How can we earlier include our suppliers? Less ready, so to speak, requirements and really get input. So I think we should urge for that also this time to say, I mean, now when we are talking about new projects, come up with ideas regarding circularity, regarding, I mean, fossil-free operation, regarding how to decrease CO2, both in material but also in use, etc. So this will be very, very important for us when we are judging or honoring different type of contracts moving forward.
And I think we also have to include how do we get rid of really substances of concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take care about raw materials like cobalt, really conflicting minerals. So it's a broad area. But
very important area, but very interesting and a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I fully agree.
But Andrea, we all have also this very good base of having the code of conduct and for our suppliers, which is our guiding star into this.
Yeah, the code of conduct is in many areas, I would say, the guiding star in these questions. Yeah.
So listening in to both of you, obviously there's a lot of high ambitions, but also a lot of work to do. But I also hear that there's a lot of untapped potential, especially within this productivity area and the resources. And maybe we should also give a cliffhanger to our listeners today that during 2021 we will do a deep dive in one of these webcasts where we will talk about circular economy. So stay tuned for that. The third area, Martin, people. You often talk about being a human-centric company. What do you mean by that?
People is the most important asset, obviously, in all companies, in society at large. And of course, in order to develop the full potential of each individual, need to work in a safe, respectful environment where we are taking out the full potential of each and every one, both in the group but also in the full ecosystem. Then you will be world class.
Andrea, how does the supply chain come into the picture?
It's very clear, Martin, like you said, being human-centric, this means we have to also look into our supply chain, and it starts with respecting human rights.
Absolutely.
But it has to go even further, that we accept everybody like he or she is, and we give them the opportunity to grow.
So I listen into you and I understand there's a lot of work to do. How are we going to manage it, Martin?
No, if we see, how the new landscape will evolve, a lot of new technologies, we need to work in different type of systems, more complex than ever. You cannot do it alone as a company. You need to do it together. You need to do it much more open, transparent, both upstreams with our suppliers and business partners in that end of our business, but also downstreams with our customers, with academia, with societies, etc. And partnership is really the new leadership. And that requires also a cultural shift, a cultural change, that we open up, that we dare to put things on the table, to discuss together, listen and understand, that in order to achieve that, it must be a win-win situation.
I fully agree. I think this is how we have to define partnership.
Exactly.
It's win-win, and by the way, it can also be a transactional relationship as long as it's a fair price for the right component, for example. But we have to develop here many different business models, exactly like you said, Martin. Let's be open to work in other ways and dare to try out new things.
And Martin, what would you now say to everybody who listened in today? What is the most important takeaway from the session?
First and foremost, that we have defined a North Star for the Volvo Group in order to lead the way towards Paris and beyond. To have a society that is not only fossil-free by 2050 at the latest on a global scale, but also in a lot of different aspects when it comes to true sustainability, financially, ecologically, socially and ethically. And that is a big undertaking. And the main message is that we want all of you on board. We want your ideas, innovation, push us. Be clear when you think that we can do better, when we can improve something.
Yes.
We will do the same, but everyone that really wants to be part of this journey should take the chance now, because we are stepping up, and we're stepping up big time here.
Andrea, your main takeaways?
We have to do it together. And what is for me important, nobody should really wait for any kind of legislation. The change starts with us in the industry. We, the industry player, we have here a big responsibility, and we have not to wait for anything, just do it. It starts with us. One thing what's also important, and I like to say in Perform, is transform's best friend. Of course, we have to do this transformation by not at all losing any track on Perform, because we can only do good if we as companies are doing well.
Absolutely.
So it is important that we really put it also into the consideration, people, planet and profit.
So we have now reached almost the end of the session, so let's start to round off. I know that both of you have sustainability close at heart. What drives you?
No, but I think we have been into a lot of those questions already today, and this is the question and the challenge for mankind of our times, in order to hand over a planet, society to coming generation in good shape. And therefore we should continue now to drive this. It will be good for planet, it will be good for people, but also for profits. I mean, the successful companies will be the companies that are integrating sustainability in their business models, believe in it, and understand that context is what will make you successful. And I love the passion that I feel in the organization, in the family, in society, and I think we see a big shift here. So if you want to be a winner for tomorrow, you should join this journey.
Andrea?
Very easy. As I have children, I really want to be clear that I use my position to be part here of creating a better purpose and safeguarding the planet for our generation and the next one.
And you also say sometimes that I want also to take the responsibility.
Absolute. This is what everybody has to do, take the responsibility and feel accountable.
Absolutely.
Andrea and Martin, any final words from you to all who have listened in today to the session?
If you allow me to start, very simple. We have to do this together, and it's even more important that now we as companies, we work against the same targets, the same vision, and everybody feels responsible and accountable.
Martin?
First and foremost, thank you for letting me be part of it. I mean, to also have the opportunity to communicate with all supply partners out there. And I would like to start by saying thank you to all of you, not only for this year, I will come back to that, but for a number of years. I see how we have improved our abilities together when it comes to quality, delivery precisions, volume flexibility, but also innovation and partnership that you are often talking about, Andrea, to step up there. But of course also 2020, unprecedented year, different in many aspects, and you, your team, but also your business partners upstreams have really supported us to be in the situation we are now and continue to maneuver from a position of strength. So thank you very much for that, and looking forward for the next year as well, when we will drive the transformation together.
And thank you to both of you, and also thank you to every one of you who listened in today. And this recorded webcast will be available online. And I would also like to add on that in parallel to this quarterly webcast, we will continue the monthly updates, which is some of you have been participating throughout the year, and we will continue with those one at least during the first half of 2021. So stay tuned for that. And now I would like to thank you again, and I wish you to stay safe, take care, and bye-bye.